Good morning, everyone. I'm Kara de la Cruz de Gamo, and today I'll explain why academics have shifted from the concept of cultural imperialism to globalization when studying media and cultural interchange. This shift is crucial because it indicates a more precise and nuanced grasp of the complexities of cultural connections in our contemporary environment. First, the impact of the end of the Cold War. One of the most significant causes for this transformation is the end of the Cold War. Prior to its conclusion, the ideological, geopolitical, and economic conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union dominated world relations. However, once the Cold War was over, the globe entered a new age in which no single global battle dominated international affairs. The United States emerged as the single superpower, while the world remained increasingly fragmented. This fragmentation resulted in a complicated dynamic between global forces of cohesion, such as multinational firms, international organizations, and digital communications, and local forces of dispersal, such as nations and communities attempting to preserve their own identities. In this new world, the old concept of nation-state as the primary actor in global affairs has eroded. Instead, interactions take place at numerous levels. First, subnational. For example, regional movements and local identities. Second, national. For example, government policies and rules. Lastly, global. For example, multinational trade agreements and media conglomerates. Scholars have shifted away from the more rigid concept of cultural imperialism in favor of globalization, which better portrays this multifaceted and linked world. Second, John Tomlinson's argument, the unpredictability of globalization. The second reason for this transition stems from the work of researcher John Tomlinson, 1999. He claims that globalization is a more appropriate phrase than cultural imperialism because it represents a less structured and unpredictable process. Cultural imperialism implies a one-way flow of influence, with powerful Western nations imposing their cultural on weaker emerging countries. Globalization, on the other hand, does not proceed in a linear manner. Rather, it entails complex exchanges of cultural influences that affect all nations. In other words, globalization threatens not only poor countries' cultural identities but also powerful nations' cultural coherence. For example, first, while Hollywood films continue to dominate worldwide marketplaces, Western viewers are increasingly consuming Japanese anime and South Korean K-pop. Second, fast food restaurants such as McDonald's tailor their menus to local preferences, merging global and local traditions. And lastly, social media platforms disseminate multiple cultural trends around the world, resulting in hybrid identities rather than merely imposing one culture on another. Globalization's fluid and unexpected nature made it more significant than cultural imperialism. The third reason is globalization as a dominant academic perspective. The third reason for this analytical change is that globalization has emerged as a critical framework in a variety of academic fields, including the humanities and social sciences. As scientists in subjects such as sociology, political science, and communication studies began to focus on globalization, it inevitably altered how media and culture were studied. This shift reflects the fact that the media now acts on a global basis. News spreads instantly across boundaries. An entertainment industry collaborates globally, and cultural hybridization occurs everywhere. Because globalization provides a more comprehensive and adaptable framework, it has largely supplanted the previous concept of cultural imperialism. In conclusion, scholars have moved away from the concept of cultural imperialism and accepted globalization for three primary reasons. First, the end of the Cold War resulted in a more complicated, fractured world with power and influence divided across several levels. Second, according to John Tomlinson, globalization is an unpredictable, multidirectional phenomenon that impacts all nations, not only emerging countries. And lastly, globalization has become a dominant perspective in many academic areas, influencing how we analyze media and culture. This transition enables a more nuanced view of how cultures interact, adapt, and influence one another in today's interdependent globe. Thank you.